Today I'm going to give you a simple tutorial for creating a Google presentation. My audience will most likely be teachers who want to model this for their students, but certainly it's going to be appropriate to show to your students if you'd like to embed it somewhere, and then they can watch it a couple times and be prepared before it's time to launch in. So I'm in my Google Drive and I'll click on the red New button, and I'm going to search for, let's see, Google Slides. And in Google Slides, it opens up with basically an introduction page, and it's going to give me the option to choose a theme. I'm not too crazy about, really wild themes, but sometimes it's nice to choose one that's kind of simple. Usually it just populates on the first slide, and the rest of the slides are simple. Some themes will carry down to subsequent pages. So I chose a theme called Plum, and I can exit out of that now. And now that you see that my thumbnail is selected on the left-hand side, you can add new slides by clicking on the Slide tab and then clicking New Slide, or as you see, Control M is an option as well. So if I hold the Control button and tap the M, I can add as many slides as I need to. In this case, I'm going to do 9, and I'll show you why. So I'm noticing that in my first slide, I have this pretty little layout that's going to have a more prominent title, and then in my subsequent slides, it defaults to a small title and then room for text. These boxes are just boxes that are guidelines. None of them will show when you print or you present, but you can also go up to, I think it is under, let's see, slide layout. You can go ahead and change all those layouts if there's a layout that you want to use on a specific page, especially if you're going to be sharing this with students and you want them to follow a certain type of template. I'd also like to mention that under File and Page Setup, you have the option to change from a landscape view, which you can see on the left, your pages are landscape view. If you wanted to do something custom, you can certainly put in your dimensions and perhaps make it or force it to be a portrait view. Sometimes that's really helpful if you're going to be using certain photographs of a certain dimension or material that is already in portrait format. So the first thing I do when I create a presentation or a Google slideshow is that I'm going to name it. So I will click on Untitled Presentation, and I'm going to call this World Continents, and say I'm going to show a little something about each of the continents on each of these slides. It does help if you are already prepared and have maybe been working on a Google Doc and have already done your research. It makes it a lot more clean to grab your research and put it into each of the slides, as opposed to getting to a slide and then doing your research. Certainly how you choose to model that for your students is up to you. In my case, what I'm going to do is on my home page, I'm going to add a title, and I'm going to call it World Continents. I really like this font, but if I wanted to change it, I could drag over my words and then choose any of these other fonts. I mean, there are a lot to choose from, and then you can go from there. And clearly you can also change the size as well. So if I wanted to maybe go to 60, that would be, as you can see from the thumbnail, my introduction page. And naturally you can put a subtitle if you'd like or not. Don't worry about the box. If it bothers you, get rid of it, but when you present, it won't be there anymore. So on my subsequent slides, I might be starting with Africa. Click on the thumbnail on the left, and here I will put Australia, and maybe start with another one, and I'll probably stop here just for the sake of illustration, South America. And I showed you how to change the font and the sizes. At the bottom, I'd like to put an attribution page. I think it's important whenever possible to emphasize to children that they must give attribution for where they get their slides. It could be that they use their learning center, their libraries, World Book Online or Culturegram's subscription. In that case, I think you can be a little bit more lenient because it is for student use, and you could put both of those resources here in a list. So now I'm going to scroll back up, if you see my thumbnails on the left, and I'm going to populate this with some information, such as, here's a Google Doc that I created. I just got some basic information about Africa, and I'm going to select it, use my keyboard shortcut to Control-C, copy, click where I want the information to go, Control-V, paste. You may end up wanting to do a lot more than what I'm showing here. I'm going to highlight it, change the font size, and maybe I'll even change to Railway, which I thought was pretty attractive. I can change my text box and perhaps add an image. The way you add images, well, there's a number of ways to do it. You could, for instance, if I go back to the first page here on my introduction page, I can click on Insert, or look, there's a little icon right here that will allow me to insert a photo from lots of places. My albums, my Google Drive. I can search for images. In this case, I have one that I downloaded to my computer. So I'm going to look for it and search for it. Click on it once, say Open. And then I can resize it once it plops on the page by grabbing the rail, like the handle right here in the corner, and then move it to where I want it to be positioned. Okay, this I got from Culturegrams, and I will list that in my attributions later at the bottom. So that's one way to import a photograph, is to have it already on your computer. Another way that you can do it is when you're back in your Google slideshow, you can click on Tools, Research, and then over here my options are to search everything in Google or say just images. So I'm going to ask it to select images only of, let's see, I'll try Africa. I'll just try Africa first and see if I can get a decent image of the continent. And I'm really pleased with this one right here. Well, this looks nice too, because it shows Africa in relationship to Europe and Asia. So I'm going to drag it over. And don't you love it that the attribution's already on the bottom of my photograph? So that is something you might want to help your kids take note of, because I think it's reasonable, if that wants to stay there, that they can just use that as their attribution. I think I'm going to grab the handlebar in the corner. I will want to choose the handlebars in the corner when I'm stretching my image. I usually will hold the Shift button too, just to make sure that it keeps its proportions. If it's somebody's face, that would not be appropriate to be grabbing the side, because especially like this with the globe, it just looks wrong if it doesn't keep the proportions that it was entered into. Naturally, you can use the keyboard shortcuts of Control-Z to undo, or we have our undo buttons here if you needed to go back and fix it. The slideshow, the Google slideshow, also has an option to do transitions between slides. I think that before I do transitions, actually I probably don't need to go and put a whole bunch more information here, because it's going to be more of just the same. But let's look at transitions right here. Let's see, insert. Now I got to remember where I put it. Tools. We'll get there. Slide, transitions. I know it's here. Change transition. So there are a number of transitions that you can choose from, such as fade, sliding from left to right. I think in this case, cube is a cool one to use, and I can choose whether I want this transition to be fast or slow. I'm going to choose it to be a medium speed, and I'm going to ask it to apply to all slides. And hopefully, we'll see how that looks. Looks pretty nice, right? So we're going to apply that to all slides. And let's see. Now, when you're ready to do your presentation for, say, a classroom or something like that, you can simply click, I like to click on the first slide and then click Present. Hopefully you're still seeing this. I'm on slide 1, and I can use the arrows to go from each slide and to continue. It's being prompted by me. That's one way to present. Another way to present Well, certainly you can also share this. Right now, this slideshow is private only to me, so I want to bring that to your attention because it's important to click the Advanced button. With the Advanced button, you can change the privacy to be anyone with the link. I think that's a smart way to go to change that privacy so no one gets stuck having trouble viewing it or asking for permissions. But from here, you could Control C and copy this link. You can make it shorter as well with going to URL shortener, and then you can paste that and share it with other people, or you can actually enter and their email address, and then they will get an email invitation to view it. But lastly, you can publish this entire slideshow to the web. And what's cool about that is that you can set how many seconds you want the slides to, how quickly you'd like them to advance, and you can also set it to play and replay automatically, which is great if you have like a kiosk type of setup where you want to have a slideshow play over and over again. So under the button that says File, you would go down to Publish to the Web, and here you can change the default of how often you want your slides to advance, and then you can also tell it to restart and to start the slideshow as soon as the player loads. So once you publish it, you will get a URL that you can use to connect. Well, obviously you'll have to have an internet connection, and then you can set that up in kiosk mode, so to say, in any other location. So have a great time using this tool, and we'll see you next time.